Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Today is March 31st, and we are looking at another case where a normal human being would look at these two women dying nearly simultaneously after the work of Dr. Thomas Eade. We would look at this and say, well, of course, they didn't have ready access to antibiotics. Infection happens sometimes, and that's why she died. But you have to remember, according to abortion rights, in spite of the fact that this was a doctor, in spite of the fact that antibiotics weren't widely available, the whole reason that these two women died was that the legalization fairy had not sprinkled her magic safety dust over everything. It always gets down to whether the legalization fairy has been there. And unfortunately for Gladys and Cleo, the legalization fairy had not sprinkled her safety dust. Got nothing to do with the lack of antibiotics. So let's look at these two women who died both on March 31st, 1930, and both after abortions attributed to Dr. Thomas Eade. Now, Gladys was an 18-year-old freshman at the University of Illinois. She was studying liberal arts and sciences, was a very active student. She was a member of the Alpha Omicron Pi sorority and Alpha Lambda Delta, which was a women's honorary freshman scholastic society. Gladys had been seeing a man identified as R.C. Cathart for about 2 years, and the couple had become engaged in the late fall of 1929. But over the weekend of March 8th and 9th of 1930, Gladys traveled to Chicago to tell R.C. that she was pregnant. The couple discussed the situation and decided that they were too young to marry, and they agreed that Gladys should abort the baby. R.C. said that he had heard of Dr. Thomas Eade in Champaign, Illinois, and recommended that Gladys go to him. Oops, fix a typo. Oops, that didn't fix it. So, Gladys wrote to R.C. to tell him that she had undergone the abortion on Monday, March 21st, and had returned to classes in her sorority house after spending the night at Eade's practice. But then her letters to R.C. stopped, so he went to Champaign on Thursday to check on his betrothed. Now, by Friday night, March 28th, Gladys was seriously ill, and somehow word reached Dr. Eade that she was ill, and he sent his secretary to the sorority house with medication. But Gladys's condition continued to deteriorate. The sorority house mother called a different doctor, J.R. Powell, to check on her at 3:30 on Saturday morning, March 29th. He found her to be so ill that he admitted her to Mercy Hospital in Urbana. Somebody contacted her mother, who hurried to her side, but Gladys's condition continued to deteriorate. So at 7:30 on Saturday evening, Dr. J.M. Crissell came in as a consultant. But despite the best efforts of these doctors, Gladys died of peritonitis at 3 o'clock on the morning of March 31st with her mother at her side, and an autopsy confirmed that she had died from peritonitis due to an abortion. But remember, it's the legalization fairy, had nothing to do with lack of antibiotics. Now, just an hour before the start of the inquest on the evening that Gladys died, word came to the coroner that a 23-year-old stenographer named Cleo Hinton had also died that day at Mercy Hospital, giving a statement that Eade had perpetrated an abortion on her. Now, unlike Gladys, Cleo indicated in her deathbed statement that the baby's father had not been involved in the abortion, but she was just trying to keep him out of trouble because the man in question, J.F. Campbell, testified to the contrary. He said, "I have known Miss Hinton possibly 5 years, and since November 29th, I have been in her company many times, although we did not go steady, nor were we engaged. 6 weeks ago, she came to me and told me of her trouble and stated that it was necessary for her to do something at once. She told me she was going to see Dr. T.M. Eade and she would let me know how much it cost. Later, possibly 2 days later, she called me and told me the doctor had consented to perform the operation for $40. For several days, she took treatments and pills, but 2 weeks ago, she told me at her home that the treatments were not benefiting her as they should, meaning they were not dislodging the unwanted baby. So she was to go and stay 2 days at the doctor's office." So the abortion was perpetrated at Eade's office on Saturday, March 22nd, actually 2 days prior to Gladys's abortion. Cleo remained ailing at Eade's practice while JF visited her regularly. Now, Cleo's sister, Lavon, indicated that Cleo had told her she was going to St. Louis and return Monday the 24th, but when she didn't return as expected, Lavon said, I started an investigation, and on Tuesday, March 25th, I found her at Dr. Eade's office in bed and very sick. I saw that her condition was bad and ordered her removed to a hospital, but Dr. Eade refused. Later in the day, I called him by telephone to tell him I was sending 2 daughters to see my sister. Oops, typo. Eade said he would not let them in, and that was the time I went to the state's attorney. So Sheriff Schauf went to Eade's office. Typos. On March 25th, partially investigating Gladys's abortion, but also because of the information from Cleo's sister. Eade said that she was ill from intestinal influenza. The sheriff had her transferred to Mercy Hospital, where she died at 7:15 p.m. on March 31st. Now, Eade was arrested later that day, but before police had a chance to seize his records, his secretary reported finding the offices ransacked and the records stolen. Oopsie. Now, Eade had been previously implicated in 2 other abortions, one in which the patient died and another in which the patient went insane. I have not been able to find out what happened to this case of a doctor who evidently had 3 dead patients to his name, 2 of whom died on the same day. But remember, it's not lack of antibiotics, it's that the legalization fairy just hadn't been set free yet.